It's a very chill start. Feels cozy. Thank you very much. What's up, folks? Welcome in. Welcome. I am your host, a tomato. Possibly a sad one, possibly a happy one. I don't know. We're gonna see based on how this whole video we're about to watch goes. But definitely a curious tomato. There have been a lot of murmurs and whispers about a special little video that came on. It's not special, it's Star Citizen Live. Star Citizen Live on Friday was apparently pretty interesting with its news and with the way that things were delivered, the way things were said. We're gonna read between the lines. So today on stream, as you know, generally it's chatting, it's talking, it's development, it's complaining, it's good fun. And today we're looking again at another video from the Star Citizen developers. This one in particular is from Richard Tyrer, Johnny Jesseveus, and I don't know who the third person was, but we're gonna find out in the beginning of this episode. These are big deal names. These guys have there's also Jared, of course, our favorite, our usual, always here, always pretty. His name, I don't know his name, but these guys are important in the Star Citizen world. Why am I not recording this? Here we go. I'm sorry. These guys are important in the Star Citizen world. Oh no, my stream deck's not working. No. Wait, yeah, it is. Cool. Okay. Like I was saying, they'll be saying a lot of things that will end up actually happening in the game. At least that's the way it seems over the years. Johnny does a lot of I believe he's on EUPU, does a lot of the crunchy gameplay, the salvage kind of stuff, those things. And then Richard Tyrer is obviously, he's now basically co-director of Star Citizen, so he's got a lot of say in what's going on. And he's very, very involved in the main direction of the game at this point. Don't know how the hierarchy settles or how he has moved into other positions. Obviously he's taken the role that Todd Pappy used to hold. And nobody can really know for sure how much his specific position in that role changes the game versus him just continuing the vision that maybe Chris has passed on to that position. So that's kind of what we're going to be learning about over this next year. And I know it's a hot topic. When somebody changes jobs, could be nothing, could be something. Either way, it is my job to make it interesting. No, I think it's reasonable to watch the way the game develops and try to see correlations. That's happened with certain developments they've done in the past and throughout certain years. Certain things were happening and we figured out later on it's because of certain other things. So I think this will be an interesting talk for that. Also though, because this is just going to be a really good candid talk about the near and far future of Star Citizen. And that's an interesting topic because we're almost at our 7-year milestone of server meshing. They introduced that as the road to release back in 2018, I think. And we're getting up there, 6 years, I guess. So now as they start to talk about the beyond of 323, 4.0, hopefully a little bit beyond that, we can start to see what direction they're turning in for the rest of the game. So I think this will be really good. If you've seen this already, I'm sure you got good things to say about it. If not, sit in, buckle down, relax. We've got a whole bunch of watching in context and me butting my head in to make comments ready over the next couple hours. But welcome in to the good folks of the garden, those who came to the notification gang. Thank you for coming and watching, folks. Hope you enjoy the show. Lord Skippy renewing that membership as an onion. 28 months. 28 months he is. What color tomato does that make you? 28 months. Is that a pink one? David McG, welcome in. Cantor, good to see you. Not a name I've seen much lately. Randy, hello. Echo Zeppelin, Valis, good to see you. Vasson,
You rock.
Colt,
You know that?
Timber, Davy and Flame and Tuss and Loom and Tannel and Payback and Isty and Ten, the Slayer, Fulminous, Brigadier Bow. There's 2 bows, Brigadier Bow and Flame Bow. I like that. I went to read 2 names and it still ended up making the name Brigadier Bow. Randy Durnall, bracing yourself for the coming poopy show, and you bought a bunch of ships with UEC. That's a good idea. If you haven't bought your ships, buy your ships before the wipe. Fasten, You didn't get to dance today, huh? I'm sorry. But I see Toes Gang popping in here. Reese, welcome. ODZ, Citizen Scott, good to see you all. Good to see ya. Exuent. Good music to start the stream. I love the chill vibes. You can't even hear this, can you? There we go. Hit me with that kick. That little tap of the drumsticks. That slight rustle, fussle, white noise of the record. Ooh boo, good to see you. Why are you guys all talking Pop-Tarts? Scorpio King, Funnel Web Glider. Funnel Web Glider. Welcome. Server meshing is as old as our relationship. Oh my lord. Yeah, it basically is. I think it's their statement about it is 1 year younger than us. Me and Mrs. Tomato together. For all the people who are like, yeah, I backed this game and then I went and got married and then I went to school and I got my graduate, and then me and Mrs. Tomato are gonna be like, yeah, we built a garden in that time. Good times. Bye Toes. What start pack should you be eyeing for a good personal landing pad? I wouldn't worry about the landing pad. Okay, I need to know. Is that like slang for an apartment that's coming with your ship? Or are you literal landing pad? Because in Star Citizen, it could be different. If you're talking about the hangar that comes with the ship, I wouldn't worry too much about that. The best hangar you could probably get with the ship, I don't think they even do those anymore, right? They don't do the personal hangars with ships. That's been a long time. Yeah, for the hangars, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But when they did do it, if they still do it, the best one you'd probably get was with an origin ship, because they generally matched the sort of vibe they were going with for that ship. So like, normally I'd say if you were getting a starter ship, best value, Cutter, Pisces, Avenger Titan. I'd say those are the best three. All of them are more than $45 though. So like, generally I tell people go with the $45 pack. Oh yeah. Don't worry about hangar sizes. Whatever ship you get, they will match you. Generally, any starter ship you get, you're going to get a small hangar. But that is, not only is that not permanent, it's going to change patch by patch if they do any wipes or anything. But it also will change with your ship. So don't worry too much about that. Why am I not talking about Pop-Tarts? Fun fact. My sister went to school with one of the like heirs of the Pop-Tart company. Real random fun fact. Scorpio King, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Just want to say thanks for all the valuable information for new players coming into Star Citizen. My friend, I'm so glad you said that. I actually was going to earlier today make a post on Discord about this. We will get to it at some point this week. Still looking for other people's suggestions on new things to remind people of in 323 if they're coming back. I've got a pretty decent list. It's actually far too long and I probably got to whittle it down, but I do want to make sure to get the cream of the crop, and if there's anything I'm missing, I aim to capture it for the new folks. So if you're on the Discord, chime in. Gentle German boy who meshes our servers will be very tired once 4.0 releases. German boy. Is that Ben was not German. New key bindings need to be in there. Yeah, I was just kind of including look at the key bindings since, you know, there's a lot and I can't put them all in a video. Think they're matching ship size to hangar size. As for style, not sure if it'll be the old ones. Yeah, I don't think they give personal hangars anymore, but I might be wrong. Remind them that the game is technically playable. We're going to have new people coming in 323 that will never know the pain of the old star map. Ah, oh, bless their hearts. Bless their hearts and souls. That's fantastic. It's wonderful for them. I'm so happy. All right. Let's step on into the bliss that is what is happening in Star Citizen later, because that is always a... Oh, man. What a saying. I was about to say, let's Step into the bliss that is what is happening in Star Citizen later, because generally the answer is always better than what is happening now. And like, that's good, but it's also not. No, that's good, right? It should always be getting better. Just doesn't sound great. Oh yeah, by the way, if you are looking for a starter pack, as somebody, Zero in fact, did redeem in the chat there on Twitch, we do still have a cutter giveaway going on for a copy of the game and a Drake cutter. Pretty nice ship, not gonna lie. It's like not a traditionally nice ship, but it's a good choice. Okay, let's see what's coming up in Star Citizen. Thank you for joining me, folks.
We were this way.
You were taunting everybody that came to try and find you.
Yeah. And they went, we're going to kill this guy. And we went, kill him.
Yeah. And then they did kill him.
Yeah. And then we made a big arrow.
Yeah.
Yes. There was the two paths. We made an arrow out of the corpses.
Yeah.
That said this way.
And then his ghost came to haunt you when you tried to get out at the end.
But we've never actually we never finished that mission.
Well, more or less you did, because you guys had a confrontation with the final boss. He had his.
Is he the one that disappeared?
Transitional moment.
He took the guy, right?
To a paladin.
Yeah.
So when are we going to play again?
As soon as we can find time, you know?
Soon.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to, what show is this? Star Citizen Live, Alpha 323 and beyond. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. If you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour at the end of our week to ask Rick, our Dungeon Master, when our next game is. Rick, when's our next game?
Sometime after 323.
Okay, fair enough. Joining us on the show this week
so that's Rick.
3 members of the, quite frankly, the Squadron 42 and the Star Citizen development leadership team. So let's take a few moments, get to know them before we jump into your questions. Rich, just because you're sitting closest to me, and you want to start with you, tell everybody who you are, what you do for Star Citizen.
So I am Richard Tyra, and I am the Senior Game Director for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And that means I work directly with Chris on the vision for both games, and then I work directly with the teams on executing that vision.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay. Rick?
I'm the design director for CIG, which means I handle all the design departments for both SC and S42, which is level.
It's definitely an important position.
Design and mission design and content design and tech design and systems design and economy design and UI UX design, and so yep. So yeah, work with my assistant directors to make sure that everything's getting done and it's all on the same page as Rich is leading.
Basically, like, wow, yeah, no, that's a huge position.
And this is your very first any sort of video appearance for Cloud Imperium Games.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't recognize him. That's a big name to have, though, and like, there's a lot of design in Star Citizen. Big cheeses.
Been here?
Like 5 years.
So you've been here 5 years and managed to avoid it that long.
Yeah.
How'd we get you this time?
I said yes.
Fair enough. Sometimes that's all it takes. And JJ, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I'm the assistant design director here. So
we know
cover
Johnny.
some of the teams that Rick mentioned. So I more directly focus on things like the mission design, system design, technical design, and economy design. So I kind of work on the creative side with those.
Shifty, I noticed there were no Toes Gang prematurely in chat today. Made me sad, but I'm good to see you. Good to see you.
Those teams, and obviously push and help those guys deliver what they need to deliver for the releases.
Okay. So in the last letter for the chairman, that's where it was revealed that you've moved over from Squadron. Well, that's not technically true. You didn't move over. You expanded. You consumed. You basically spread out across 2 games. You know, bringing Rick and JJ with you. You were originally back with the old actor feature team. You went over to Squadron. Led Squadron, got it to feature complete, came back here. The question I want to ask, how the hell do you run 2 games?
I don't go home very often, so that's one. I mean, ultimately, I've set up hierarchies on both of those teams to be able to work independently of me when I'm not there. But I spend a lot of time reviewing both sides from Squadron and Star Citizen, and If they were very different games, it would be a very different beast, but obviously they share the same features, they share the same aspects that we want to get from the games. They're obviously different content. But, you know, I have to work with Rick and JJ, who, you know, all three of us were on the core gameplay pillar, and then we did Squadron, and then we've done SC, so we've kind of all been all together. So it's just you have to build up the teams to understand that they can, you know, give them the authority to be able to deliver on decisions and make those decisions, and you trust those people to do that. And then, you know, ultimately I'll be reviewing the game and give my feedback. But yeah, it's a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, but yeah, it's a lot very enjoyable.
We touched this a little bit in your you
Huh.
know, who are you and what do you do, but I'm curious about the division of labor between the three of you. I think Rick, you obviously feature more on the technical aspects than else.
that's my
but tell me how this triumvirate works. Are you just you constantly move together as a pack of three? Do you divide and conquer? How's this work?
A bit of both, yeah. Like whenever there's a new design, we all come together and make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we kind of split off and divide it up amongst ourselves. To
Okay,
get it done.
wait. So, hold on. What did Johnny say he was doing?
That long.
Yeah.
How'd we get you this time?
I said yes.
Okay, but why? Like, what's going on? Why did he say yes? I know this is. I'm gonna be a little tinfoil hat today, guys. I hope you enjoy. This is Metallic Tomato coming at you live on May 5th of 2024. One of the rare occasions. No, I'm just kidding. But really, why did he say yes? Why are we getting this crew together for the 323 talk? Because like sometimes we would get one person talking about the new patch, and I know this is a big patch for them. It's like the Squadron 42 patch coming over. But man, it goes in line with this whole thing that feels kind of like just the whole shift of the game's, not direction, just development in general has changed. And I had this video I released, I think in 2022, supposed to be about the history of Star Citizen, ended up being about like splitting up the development into several phases of development for Star Citizen. And I feel like we're seeing right now the most significant change. Maybe 2017, 2018-ish was pretty big, but this feels kind of similar to that, which I guess also matches the timing with the patches 3.0 and 4.0. Anyways, let's see how it keeps going. Yeah,
Fair enough.
Tommy's going
Sometimes
wild.
that's all it takes. And
I don't even know where we were.
And they do divide and conquer, so mission feature, it works well as a team.
Yeah, I mean we're all sat right next to each other. There's not a day go by we're not
Oh,
talking.
no, I went too far.
Same page.
conquer. How's this work?
A bit of both, yeah. Like whenever there's a new design, we all come together and make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we kind of split off and divide it up amongst ourselves to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that it's something I've always been very cognizant of the fact that I've always wanted to make sure that we're a trio of partnerships, to make sure that we're all on the same page, because we've got such a large team. We want to make sure that we're giving consistent messaging to the team that we're working on. So any new designs or anything new or any new content will always have an initial brief amongst ourselves before it propagates wide. But then, as Rick says, and you know, we definitely do divide and conquer. So, you know, JJ tends to look at like the events and work with Elliot on mission feature team and system design. Rick is obviously more technical and from a technical background is working with Joe is on the tech design team, and then obviously myself is more broad, but we definitely divide and conquer to help. But we always, it's never isolation. We always come back and go back and spread out again and come back and spread out again. So, and we've all got different expertise in different areas, so it works well as a team.
Yeah, I mean we're all sat right next to each other. There's not a day go by we're not talking to each other. So.
Cool. So with that, let's jump into some of the Alpha 323 questions.
It's interesting.
Obviously, we post, as we normally do, we put a thread up on Spectrum, which is our bespoke communication platform on robertspaceindustries.com. We allowed our citizens to submit questions and then vote on which ones they wanted to see answered most. As we usually do, we've sometimes smashed some of those questions and reworded them a little bit, but there's a bunch in here. The first question, right off the bat, I want to ask, is Alpha 323 coming out today?
No.
Okay.
Next question.
Doesn't that
Next
depend on
question.
which day you're watching the video?
How did we end up with fauna like the Copian and Merrick instead of anything we've previously seen before, like the space cow or the storm wall?
I'll take that one. So we've got space cow and also space whale. Aside from the cool names, we've also got space worm. All these really cool creatures that we're working on in the background. But each of those have like their own unique challenges that are going to take a little bit longer to get out. So with the Copion, we picked a creature that we knew was going to fit some of the early missions that we wanted to do, a ground predator, land-based, that we could get in the game within the time frame that we had. And then the other cool thing is the Marok is our first Boyd, and our Boyd technology is something that allows us to scale the number of creatures that we can have on planets in the future. So it's exciting to.
So that kind of shows the idea of how Boyds are going to work. They're not necessarily nameless little sprites. Like, they're fully designed animals that'll move around, but they also have harvestables. Like, what defines a Boyd then versus a fauna, regular fauna?
And then the other cool thing is the Marok is our first Boyd, and our Boyd technology is something that allows us to scale the number of creatures that we can have on planets in the future. So it's exciting to test that feature early.
And we've been talking about Boyds. An Around the Verse episode about Boyds was one of the very first things I ever, produced here. They look like the flood in Halo when we first showed that one.
Aha!
So
Halo was mentioned, and it wasn't me. Can we mark that down? Doesn't happen as much as it should. Boyd is B-O-I-D.
This Boyd technology has been a long time coming.
And just to summarize like what a Boyd is, if you're not aware, just in very simple terms, it's just basically a lightweight AI.
Yeah.
So you have like a human AI, which is a fully fledged combat with what people have been familiar with in 322 and previous. A Copion is the equivalent of a human AI in terms of its complexity, so in terms of its animation and sounds. A Boyd is kind of just a lighter version of that, so obviously a bird.
I wonder if that means because they want humans to be simulated by virtual AI and generally run a schedule and do things as they would if they were living a life. I wonder if that means that the fauna AI that are equivalent to a human would also do that, if we'll see fauna doing things naturally, reacting and acting in the environment as if they were living a life.
Doesn't have all of the same parameters. So a fish, for example, would be a Boyd and things. So anything that's got like flocking and you want to have as a group and it's flocking together.
Okay.
So it's just a simpler implementation. So as Rick says, they were two creatures that allowed us to hit the things that we wanted to hit. It doesn't mean that we're not going to push the quasi-grazer and the narwhal, the space whale further down the line, or into the game at some point. But these two were good ones that we needed to get out away from a technology standpoint.
And for those wanting to learn more, next week's ISC is dedicated entirely to the creation of the Copion and the Merrick and stuff. So you can check that out on ISC next week. Next question. Economy updates have been few and far between for the persistent universe. It's I think a lot of the easy.
Man, I'm so glad I got my video about the economy out when I did. They just started talking about it. It was like super long that we weren't getting anything on it. And I was like, oh, perfect. Let me make a video talking about how we're not hearing about it. And then boom, update after update about the economy. Jeez, man. Why you be like that? Although I guess it helps. Because if you release a Star Citizen video about a topic that's not really talked about in Star Citizen right now, oof, good luck. Would be cool to have kind of a Jurassic Park vibe on some planets. Yeah, man. Hello, Luna Maria. Welcome. Tony Z, hey.
Criticism of stuff in the PU has been the economy. We know that there are some economy updates coming in 323, but we haven't really fully discussed those. So what can you tell us about what's happening in 323?
So we wanted to basically review a bunch of our major items in the game, so looking at like armor, weapons, ships, and basically start to apply more logic to why they are being priced that way. So we started with the weapons and armor basically. So we started looking at things like applying value to different aspects of them. So like looking at pure size and just going, associating a rough material cost with a pistol is obviously going to be less material cost than a bigger rifle or a shotgun or something that's a bit chunkier. So obviously there is a weight of value associated with that. Then also looking at things like manufacturers, because manufacturers have a some of them have like a manufacturing quality associated with them, or a prestige. Looking at the different tech levels, we've got some kind of very basic ballistic weapons, and we've got some very advanced, like, you know, electron or like laser weapons that are going to be, you know, a manufacturing cost associated with them. So people can go in and go to the shop and go, like, look at the different weapons against each other and go, oh, okay, this makes logical sense because this is rarer, or this looks more expensive and feels more expensive to use.
Oh my God.
We did the same thing with the armor too. Then we started looking at some of the bigger ticket items like our ships. So again, we
Wait. Are you telling me those changes are in 323? Are you telling me that the armor prices and all the weapon prices and that stuff has changed? Don't tell me that, man. I guess that wasn't a big detail in the video. But that's definitely, remember we were talking about this like a couple weeks ago. Just the ship prices, right. It sounds like he's kind of saying the rest, but I don't think anybody has confirmed that yet.
Applied very, very similar logic to those where we kind of go like, okay, let's look at the size. Let's look at how they're being used. Are they used to make money? Because if you think about a commercial vehicle in the real world, typically they cost more because you're going to be able to make money with them. And then looking at manufacturers, quality, is it a luxury ship? That then applies more value to as well. And then obviously weighing that up against the actual prices that, you know, you're paying real money for as well, and looking that and making sure that there's an association with them there as well.
Huh.
And that also kind of allowed us to like look at a lot of the outliers that we had previously and kind of go, oh, okay, some of them are sitting way far above everything else for some reason, and some of them are sitting way far below everything else. So it's kind of just been a way of leveling it out, applying logic to a lot of that stuff as well. There was a couple of other things that we looked at too. So we also looked at balancing salvage out, because I think that had not had a thorough pass before. And we kind of saw people just getting millions upon millions of UEC through salvaging. So we felt that that was basically flooding our economy with alpha UEC. So that was causing problems with people. You know, the value of things just go down so much and it becomes meaningless when you can kind of exploit a system like that. So we've applied some more logic to that and brought the kind of like gains down on what you can get from salvage. And then we also took a look at balancing mission rewards. So instead of everyone having to go to make money, you have to default salvage. We're now looking at the effort versus reward algorithm that we're applying to our missions, and basically going like, hey, how much effort, how much risk, how difficult are they? You know, what are you putting into these missions? Is it super difficult? Okay, you should earn more money from it. Is it long? You should probably earn more money from it as well. So just overall, things should kind of feel a bit more as you would expect.
And this isn't the end of that tuning in 323. This is the next.
No, this is just the first pass.
Yeah. The next pass anyway.
Honestly, it sounds like he's saying all of that just happened in 323, which is a lot different than just the ship prices. Because if everything else has changed in pricing too, including the values of guns, armors, and loot, as well as mission payouts, that means you should be able to make more money while you're spending more money on ships as well, which would then kind of make it make sense that they're not wiping the ships, because it gives people the ability to immediately use those more advanced ships to make money and give them more data about how people are making money with the new economy prices with more advanced ships. Right? You get more testing because people get those ships faster rather than having to work their way up to them halfway through the patch. That's just a theory. But if this is true and the economy update is more than just the ship prices, it makes it a much bigger deal than I thought, and definitely than I let on in my video. So I hope to see that confirmed soon.
I mean, on that note for economy, I think I touched on this in the letter for the chairman. I think a lot of these systems have been around for a long time, like claim timers, insurance, obviously the economy values for missions, and they've kind of were balanced correctly as and when they were done a long time ago. You know, the game's been around for a long time. But we need to start bringing these systems a bit of more cohesion of how they talk to each other. So going forward, you know, I think the players and the community should expect to see, I think, some significant changes to those systems as we move towards trying to create a more cohesive experience in the game. Because I think right now, if you know how to play, if you just take 322 as a good example, if you really know where to go, like JJ said, you can just make millions upon millions. And once you've got so much money and everything is linked to progression with money, you can just buy your way and that's it, right? And you lose the desire or the motivation to keep playing the game. So I think we want to build that motivation in that, you know, okay, I'll go and do this because I enjoy doing salvage and it gives me this reward. So, and then obviously the other side of the coin, it's we don't really have a lot of money sinks in the game right now. So in terms of insurance, I think, you know, you just claim back your ship blows up, you just claim it back immediately. You die, you know, we've talked about death of a spaceman for a long time, but yeah, we want to start bringing all these systems in place. And I think going forward, we will have some more changes on that front.
That's something that they've needed for a long time. Some money sinks for sure, but also like these things actually connecting and making sense is one of the problems with Star Citizen, because it's hard to figure out what the heck is, like, why do these systems work the way they do? Why do I need to respawn at a medical clinic every time I die and I have to get my stuff? The game doesn't really share a ton about that to make it make sense or make it worth doing all of that. Like going and respawning and getting completely back together is like, you don't see the reason for it because it's not really worth it. And it just makes you hate that design element instead of them building out that system and making it actually make sense in the greater scheme of things. Like, you're not supposed to care about dying. Well, it's way too easy to die. Can we cohesify that? It's a bunch of different points in one.
So, and of course, we'll have a story next quarter with Benoit and Andre and stuff about the future development of quantum and how that'll play into that. So we don't need to touch too much on that now, just for the folks who are in chat asking.
Excuse me?
With Benoit and Andre and stuff, we'll have a story next quarter with Benoit and Andre and stuff about the future development of quantum and how that'll play into that. So we don't need to touch too much on that now.
Bet you that means that quantum's actually making some moves this year. Well, not this year, but kind of soon. Also called it quantum.
Yeah. Just for the folks who are in chat asking. All that tees up probably one of the most...
Just going to say one thing though. I hate the name quantum because we've already got quantum in the game. So I'm definitely going to be pushing to change that name.
Hey, rebrand, man. Rebrand. So all of that tees...
What should we rename it to, Rich? Should we rename it to Quanta, maybe?
Up the question that has... frankly, has dominated the chat since we first started talking about this 5 minutes ago now. Will there be a wipe in 323?
Yes, so we're going to look to wipe Alpha UEC and rentals, I believe. And that's purely because if we don't, all of the analytics that we get back from people playing the game are going to be basically false reports, because people are going to be using all of their banked cash, and it'll just be like, oh, people are just buying all of these now more expensive items, for example. And that then tells us like, oh, do we need to make these more expensive? No, not really. It's just that people are using giant cash reserves that they've been keeping for a long time.
They're not, so people are drawing the distinction that Star Citizen is all about buying ships, and that's the only reason to make money. But you still have to buy supplies and stuff. You still do have to spend money getting ammo or buying guns or armor and stuff. And at the very least, wiping everybody's wallet does allow them to see how that at least balances out when you don't have a ton of money. But people will make money fast with their ships. I still think that's also figure out the earning potentials that you can get. Exciting that they're going to talk about quantum. Interesting that Tony Z is not involved. And I look forward to hearing what they have to say about it. I hope it's still consistent with what we've been hearing.
So while it might be disappointing for some people to lose the money they've built up, it really, really helps us in informing us, like, have we pushed the economy in the right direction so we can keep making iterations and informed decisions going forward.
Yeah. And that's a good thing to note on as well. You know, we're a live game. You know, just because we change the prices in 3.23 doesn't mean we'll then change them in 4.0. We want to put them in. This is our first rebalance or releveler. We'll evaluate, and that's why we want to do the wipe. We'll evaluate, okay, look at the data, and then base our next decisions on that data.
One of the other things that's been on the public roadmap.
From what I've heard, it was clarified on the forum. It was clarified on the forums that they did indeed mean ship rentals in game will just be wiped, and I think that's just to let people know that their ship rentals will be wiped, since ship purchases won't. They're just making sure to be specific about that.
For 323 has been the the reputation hostility system changes. What should players expect in terms of gameplay with the reputation hostility feature card committed to the 323 roadmap? Thus far in the testing cycle, we have not seen any evidence of any changes in features or gameplay with regards to this card.
Yeah, rep-based hostility wasn't really for 323 so much as future. It's setting us up for success in 4.0 and Pyro and the systems that we want to do there. Like the system itself is cool. It allows us to set up factions that you can gain rep with, and they become your allies and help you out and come to your aid when you're being attacked, and vice versa. You know, you can piss somebody off, and you know that they're mad at you and they'll attack you on sight. You're not going to see a lot of that implemented in Stanton right now, but we wanted to get it in so we could start testing it in Stanton ahead of Pyro. The first place we want to do it is in Grimhex. We're planning to set that up as a neutral zone in the near future, so you'll see more of it then.
Oh, jeez. I really hope that's not what they meant in the monthly report. Hold on. That was the monthly report, right? April 2024 monthly report. And they talked about, how do you spell neutral? Neutral. Here we go. Okay. Reputation-based hostility was worked further on. Alongside several issues and improvements, a new neutral zone was added. This is a special restricted area that allows players to have all permissions to be in, with NPCs ignoring reputation, relationships, and criminality and reacting. Hold on a second. I swear to God, people are going to think that we're like torturing our dog in the background. Okay, so the special restricted area that all players have permission to be in, with NPCs ignoring reputation, relationships, and criminality and reacting neutrally to everyone. However, access will be revoked for any non-justified hostile act, with everyone else seeing that person as hostile and attacking accordingly. Why? I'm confused why they're gonna have a NPCs ignore reputation and react neutrally to everyone. Isn't that kind of like what cities are right now? No, I guess actually guards in cities will get mad at you if you have a crime stat. Why am I missing something there? Why would we want NPCs to ignore relationships in a place like Grimhex? Not to say this is Grimhex, but he did say they want Grimhex to be a neutral zone, and well, this is kind of what it's being added to. Black market zone. Black market, so like what, they just allow anybody to be there. But doesn't that mean that somebody could be really highly ranked in the advocacy and just walk in and all of these criminals would be like, hey, I know you just arrested the boss of this location. Like, what if you took out the entirety of Xenothreat in the local branch and then you walked into their home space station? Reacting neutrally to everyone, however, access will be revoked for any non-justified hostile act. Everyone else seeing that person as hostile. So you only get in trouble if you do something hostile when you're in the zone, not if you're... Does that mean that you can do something to a group of people outside of the neutral zone, and then if they start attacking you, can you run into the neutral zone and they'll stop? Neutral zone sounds like a really weird idea for Star Citizen. Give doggo treats. You know that? Thank you, Skippy. I'll make sure that your super chat goes towards the dog treats. I'll let her know. Not everyone knows you except maybe the gang controlling the place. I mean, they say just NPCs. Think we're heavily misinterpreting that? Criminals wouldn't be neutral. But this is saying it's reacting It's ignoring criminality and reacting neutrally to everyone. So it does not matter what you do in the game, who you have reputation with or against, how you've been criminality, who you've murdered. If you walk into this zone, NPCs will ignore that. That's what this sentence says, at least. New outpost in the Dusters. If you shoot one of them, they will shoot back. But what I'm saying is, if you have already shot the Dusters before you went to one of those outposts, if you shot the people who were in charge of that neutral outpost, and then you walked into the outpost, are they just going to be cool with you? Because that's some real basic RPG AA kind of stuff. And I'm sure that's not exactly what it is. If you're already in combat, then enter, you automatically are hostile. I mean, I wish they would specify that. A zone that doesn't require armistice zone. They will shoot back at you. I don't know, man. NPCs ignoring reputation relationships. A reputation relationship specifically means past actions with that group. You don't get reputation from what you're doing at that moment. You have it from before. If you have a negative reputation with Crusader and you enter a Crusader neutral zone, Crusader won't touch you. Which, could make sense in some locations, but will it? Will it make sense per lore? Or per the theme of that area? Will I just walk into an outpost and there's just neutral zone rules? I do hope, here's what I'll say. I hope it's not what I'm saying it is. Or what it sounds like it is. I hope that this is them moving towards removing armistice zones and just talking about how cities and outposts and everything will be neutral zones. But my concern with that then, I'm all concerned tomato today. I said I was tinfoil, but I'm concerned tomato. My problem with that would then be, let's say that you have a criminal who's been messing around in Hurston area, and they've built up a reputation so that they no longer are welcome in certain places. And then let's say that there is a neutral area on the local space station. I don't know, one of the local space stations is a neutral area. That's also something we need to know, is what exactly is this for? Maybe Grimhex is the only one. But if there is a neutral zone and a bad criminal who likes to just kill people indiscriminately, who some might call a griefer, let's say they go into that neutral zone and then they are basically not being attacked. They're not being driven out by security. They're not being blocked by any of the in-game restrictions that are supposed to keep bad players or killing players and non-aggressive players apart from each other. And then they can just kill somebody in the neutral zone. Yeah, then they'll get in trouble. Somebody will attack them. But they don't have that reputation following them around that should have told people it was going to be bad. Why are we treating this first implementation of a rule set that is in testing? Why are we treating it? We ain't treating it. That's kind of what we do. We talk about these things as they come up. I didn't really talk too much about this with the monthly report because this didn't tell me much, but now they're bringing it up in Star Citizen Live, so I thought it would be interesting to follow on. We'll have to see how that goes. Neutral zones. Interesting. Access will be revoked for hostile acts. Right, but you're missing the first part. You're not getting stopped before the hostile act. Star Citizen's only going to work if Star Citizen can stop Mr. Bad Murder Man from murdering Mr. New Player before it happens. If Mr. Bad Murder Man goes into neutral zone in Terra and meets Hello, I'm New Junior, there's nothing stopping them from murdering them in the neutral zone and then getting in trouble. And a beautiful part of the reputation system has always been that it starts people beforehand. But they're not dumb. These people who are making the game know what they're doing. So I'm probably misinterpreting it, and I look forward to, hearing more about this. It sounds weird the way that it's being posed. Either way, that's enough talk about that one. Back to it.
Have some settlements, I believe, with the Duster faction in 323, where if you do encounter them, the AI are neutral to you. So if you go and you see and you might have a delivery mission to that settlement, they won't attack you unless you attack them. So there is some small instance where, like Rick says, we're testing out that feature, and then it's really more of laying the groundwork for future.
We just need more feedback on that feature, and as we continue.
Maybe it's a halfway point.
Okay. So this next question comes with a very specific set of instructions. Let me make sure I get this right. This is for JJ. Question's for JJ. Tom, follow me over to JJ. Sniper glint. WTF, man?
So Sniper Glint was basically our first kind of proper foray into giving you some good feedback against someone who's using a sniper rifle. So this was actually a very low development cost feature that we wanted to basically try out. And it's not to say that there are other things we can't do later that might be better for the game that we're heading towards.
Still quiet?
But this was something we wanted to try out purely because when we start adding more and more systems into the game that kind of lead us to this death of a spaceman kind of future, which for people who don't know, it's basically there's going to be more punishment through death. Death is going to be it's going to be a very big deal. And if you have a moment where you die and there was nothing you could have done about it because you had no idea about what happened, that's where it becomes a big frustration. If I come and kill you with a shotgun, you probably could have heard me coming and you could have prepared for it and shot me. You see me as part of that process. Whereas when we start looking at shooting people over massive distances that we have on our giant planets, if you dial in your scope right, you can shoot someone from like over 1 kilometer away and you're not going to be able to see them. So it was our first attempt at looking at what kind of feedback we can start providing people to kind of cut through some of that frustration. Now, there are other things that we can do in the future that I think support that as well. So like looking at, bigger muzzle flashes that you can see at longer distances, and like improving our whiz-by system and hit reaction and feedback and things like that. Those are things we can work on, but they take a lot more time to kind of get right. So ultimately, we want to play with the Sniper Glint system, see what people think, see what we think, dial it in more if we like it, or if we decide it's not the ideal solution that we eventually want, we can always turn it off. It was very low cost, like I say. So ultimately, it's good that people are giving us feedback because it's going to inform us on how we want to move forward.
Yeah, I can't find myself being all that inspired by Sniper Glint one way or the other. Seems like a balance mechanic that hopefully they dial in. This, maybe?
I think you make a good point there that this is alpha. This is where we test ideas.
Yep.
Not every. You can sit there. We can debate it. And I'm sure internally there were people that said, "No, I hate this," and internally some people said, "No, this is going to be great. I hate snipers. I'm going to love this stuff." We don't always have to make that determination internally. We can put it in, especially if it's a low effort thing like this, and find out. For certain.
Yep.
And Sniper Glint's a great example of that. So keep your feedback coming. You can direct it directly to JJ, Johnny Giusevius, Manchester Goods Yard.
You have to spell my name right, though.
You have to spell his name right, though. The front desk will not deliver it to you if you don't spell his name right. And I'm not going to tell you how to spell it, so that's the challenge rating for you. All right. Rick, this might be a question for you. Why can we scan other players' ships, but not our own?
Well, ship scanning is meant to just be detecting what's outside of your ship, right? It's error exploitation of the world around you. So that's kind of inherent in the nature of it. If I understand the question correctly, it's like, I want to be able to detect stuff on my ship, which is going to be handled by FPS scanning, which is one of the features that we're working on moving over from Squadron to SE right now.
Okay, fair enough. That seems like that was what they were talking about. So, okay. Rich, we've talked about master modes quite a bit. It's had 2 CitizenCon presentations. It's had an ISC. It's had at least 3 SCLs since we first started talking about it 2 years ago, at 2 CitizenCons ago, rather.
Sure.
Technically 3 CitizenCon ago now. We haven't talked about where it came from. Like what was the problem?
If you haven't gotten to see the podcast I did with Avenger 1 and Yogi Klatt, we did talk about where it came from. Go check that out. It's on the second channel.
Why was this deemed the solution?
Well, first off, I think the fact that we're working on a live game, the issue is that we should always be looking at, even if we've got a system that's out in the wild, we should be looking at evaluating it and does it deliver the gameplay that we want, that the community wants, that Chris wants. So when we looked at the combat as a whole, you know, and we're talking a long time ago now. I mean, I was probably still in Star Citizen. It was probably pre-Squadron when we started talking about master modes. A lot of the combat that we saw across the broad spectrum of the community, not just the new players and not just the very well experienced players, but the broad spectrum. Basically,
those two groups, those are not the only two groups, Rich. How about the not so experienced and also not new players? Can we get some representation in this conversation?
No. We felt that we could do better than that. Now, I know that there's a lot of discussion points around master modes where we're talking about lowering the ceiling cap. And, you know, that was never the intention. That's not our inspiration. Our intention really is to try and create
Welcome, everybody.
a
Thank you for coming in. This is your captain speaking. Tomato will be with you
for
shortly.
all players.
What? Bro, we just got raided by Croncy. Big Red. My dude. Thank you for dropping in here. Welcome, Cronsonites, Cromcasters, Cronies, Cronenbergs. Hello, Krons. How you doing, Sonny? Good to see you. Choom. Welcome in, folks. We're doing we're doing all the speculation, also complaining, also some tinfoil hat moments, and plenty of concerned citizen today watching Star Citizen Live, and Richard Tyrer looking very surprised. I'm sorry, that's not flattering. There you go. It's a good time. We're kind of just talking and doing the things and all that jazz. I hope you're looking forward to joining us. You might have been doing some gameplay there. What were you doing? Playing Star Citizen? Crazy. What's up, Croncy? Close the wrong window. Dude, how do you get to people's chat or stream when you raid? I feel like when I raid, I always have to go to like the homepage of Twitch and then go and find them. Be like, crap. Did I miss anything? I wish Twitch just gave you a super convenient link to click on. Hey, Bucket Nate, good to see you. Yeah, man, I'm concerned tomato today. But don't worry, it's only been like 5% concern. 25% tinfoil. You just have Twitch open when you're raiding, so easy to hop in. Yeah, that's fair. So you go from the directory. Look at this guy. Prepared. Anyways, we won't take too much a break. Thanks for joining, though. Appreciate you with the raid, Croncy. I hope you've been having a good time, dude. I hope your content and stream's going well. I saw you went to a show, I think, over the weekend. I hope that was well for you. 70% additives? Nah, baby, I'm a GMO tomato. They just do it straight from birth with me. They don't wait for me with the additives. Anyways, let's get back to the talk. Enough tomato talk.
That is fair to use for all players, that allows players to come on and still feel like they can engage in the game and compete, but still reward the very best pilots. And, you know, Master Modes is, you know, the iteration that it is today, it's been through like probably 20, 25 iterations of different tweaks and changes, and we want to try this and we want to try this. And even the iteration that we're going live with in 3.23, that's not the end. That's just the beginning of that process. We will put it live. We will, I mean,
nice, dude. Hey, Croncy, if you have any like opinions or things to say about it, we'd love to hear them. Cheers, man. Thanks for hanging out.
I had a meeting literally this morning to discuss with Yogi about spool times between SCM and nav, or what are we going to do with snub fighters that don't have a quantum drive. like, do they have a nav mode? And I was like, well, yeah, they should do. So there is the expectation is that master modes came from the goal to try and improve the overall flight experience for both combat and non-combat in the game, so that you can feel like if you want to be a space trucker, you know, that's cool, you can switch in, or if you want to be, you know, a trader or a miner or combat. So it's about taking something and making it accessible to new players, that it's has a lot of depth for existing players to then take, you know, advantage of. And, you know, really that was the inspiration. There's never really a moment in time where you start going, this is a problem, we just need to fix it. It's more about you evaluate these systems over a longer period of time and then start to think of solutions about how to improve it. And then those solutions grow and grow into a new system that you go, oh, this could be a solution that we could do. And, you know, with master modes, I think we did, you know, you mentioned all the times that we've talked about it, but we've also done several tests with the community before we've even got here, outside of just the 323 Evocati and PTU. We did, you know, we tested it in Arena Commander, we tested it with players a long time ago. So this is the you know, this is the result of a lot of effort and work by a lot of people to get it where we are now. And I think I believe in it. And now it's about getting it to the broader audience, and then we evaluate that feedback and we tweak it and tune it and get it to where we think it could be. Because I think you always have to change the foundation before you change, you know, you can start, you either have to do revolution or evolution. Yeah. And I think with the previous system, the evolution wasn't going to give us what we wanted from the end result. So we had to go slightly back a bit to then go forward.
You touched on something I think we're going to touch on a couple of times before we're done today. This idea of going to a wider audience to get a broader test going. I think it's sometimes easy to forget that the live environment is still our alpha test environment, and we get a concurrency there that we don't get in Evocati, we don't get in PTU, even when we open it up wide. You know, even a fully wide open PTU doesn't get the amount of stress that the live testing environment is. So sometimes it's like you can only, there's this idea, and again, we'll talk about it when we get there, that you just let a thing cook, you just let a thing cook, you just let a thing cook, you just let a thing cook. It's like our biggest stove, our biggest oven in this analogy here is the live alpha environment. That's where we can put the most stress on a feature. That's where we can find the causes of issues. That's where we can best find the solutions of issues are there. So it's important. So that's the next step of master mode development. It's been through all these internal phases. It's been through Evocati. It's been through PTU. Now it's time to go to live.
Yeah,
and be tested there.
To be honest, I've been playing master modes for a long time in Squadron. You know, getting a feel for it. Does it feel right? And you know, sometimes you have to sit with a feature and play it and get the everyday scenario. You can't just take half an hour and go, oh yeah, it's approved. Like, you have to play the game and play it for yourself in all the different scenarios, and then make a judgment, and then, you know, get that feedback, and then we can tweak and improve.
I think the interesting thing is as well, because it's been going for quite a while, and obviously we've been playing it internally a lot, we've had a lot of very, very passionate pilots, star citizen pilots at the company who at first were, you know, they felt adverse to the change, like some people in the community are as well. But it's been amazing seeing them playing with it, spending time with it, and coming round on it and going, actually, this is really, really fun. Like, I was, you know, I prefer this now. So it's been very cool seeing that process happen internally, and it's going to be interesting to see how it develops in SC as well.
While we're still talking,
we have talked about
here,
master modes a lot. Maybe not on the main channel, but I've done a couple podcasts on it, a couple deep dives on it. We've done some streams on it. I'm kind of done talking about it, at least for now, until we see another iteration of it. But I look forward to how it develops.
The ePTU currently has issues with input delay, desync, lag, whatever you want to call it, performance issues. What's the deal there? What's causing it, and what are we doing to fix it?
So first off, we're evaluating all of the analytics that we get back, because, you know, there's one thing that we get, obviously the issue council reports that, you know, are very, very useful for us, that people go out their way and spend their free time and testing the game and working on the game for us, and giving us the issue council reports that we take in. We also obviously have our own internal teams evaluating that. And the interaction lag itself seems to be linked to the network side of things, where kind of the network is getting throttled, and it's essentially related to the RL and the server separation.
Hey.
So it's something that obviously we haven't experienced
That's what we kind of thought it was.
before in 3.22.
Which I guess is obvious.
But it's been very, very tricky to try and find out what is causing that problem. And one of the biggest things that we've seen that exacerbates that problem is when the server performance dips below a certain value, that's when it starts to back up. So there wasn't really any silver bullet. There never really is when it gets to things like performance. It's always a death by 1,000 cuts. So when we're looking at the interaction lag, we've had pretty much a lot of our top engineers from both the core technology group and the gameplay side looking at performance improvements that we can do to basically mitigate the interaction lag as much as possible. And I think the last ePTU or the PTU that we went to previously, it was very minimal. I think because obviously we catch all these reports, we have debugging in there that captures all of the data, and that debug actually creates performance problems for us because it slows down the performance. That we don't get that debugging live. So we think we've got it, and we think we've done enough to make it so that we're not seeing it, or we're not seeing it anymore in the PTU reports. There is obviously still certain bugs and things that might appear as interaction lag and are not interaction lag. So, and when you come to performance, it's never black and white. There's always, unless you find something that's like, oh, this ship is intercolliding with a wall and it's causing massive amounts of stalling. But with the interaction lag, it was just one of those ones that was very difficult to track down. And cross fingers, we think we have done that, but only time will tell.
Yeah, and all of the backers.
While we're on this topic, let's hit another question that follows up on it here. So at the time this question was sent, the PTU was in a very rough state. Some would still, some are arguing. You look online, folks are arguing about this, what state it's in right now. This question is simply, how concerned are you with avoiding another 318?
Well, I don't want another 318, if that's the short question. The long answer, I think you have to look. You have to look at it from two different points of view, or not really two different points of view. You have to evaluate 2 points of view before we decide whether a patch should go live. I think the first point of view is the fact that you want to evaluate the gameplay experience. Have we made the gameplay better? Are the new features in there polished and working as intended? Are the existing features working? Have we lost anything that from a previous patch cycle that we want to make sure is fully functioning? And that is a whole team-wide effort. That's not an individual person. That is from all the reports that we get. We then obviously canvas live QA. We have the player experience team. We have publishing. We have the development leadership. We're all playing it ourselves, getting a good sense of, is the quality of the game what we want it to be in terms of the gameplay experience, in terms of the features, when it works well. Then the other side of the coin, where it becomes trickier, is because we're an alpha product, we are releasing foundational technology into the game, into the wider audience. So for example, this one is the replication layer and the server split.
That's the kind of funny bit is like, we're like, yeah, but 318 was bad because PES was the back end stuff. I even said that on my first video about the patch because I just forgot about the replication layer split. Good job. Can remember some obscure video in 2017. Can't remember the biggest feature coming in 323. But yeah, there's back end tech coming here too. What does he have to say about it?
Precursor to server meshing. So 318 was another foundational moment where we did persistent entity streaming. I don't believe it will be the same as 318 personally, but I'll soon find out.
I like how he's like, I mean, we'll see. And it's like, well, yeah, but by then it would have already happened, Rich. There's nothing you can do though. Like, I'm sure they're working to the confidence that it won't be like 318. But the way that they were trying to get 318 tested and the way they talked about 318 before it went live, you could tell that they were nervous. You could tell that they were like, we don't like, they were trying really hard to incentivize people to get into PTU and test 318. They were like, hey, we're going to give you awards. We're going to know who you are. We're going to point you out to the community, all this stuff. Please just get into PTU and test, please. And it didn't happen for like months. And then they were like, all right, we'll push it live. And they pushed it live. And then they got those testing numbers and everything collapsed. With 323, they haven't shown any real anxiety about people testing it. Like, they just went through the thing that was causing the problem, the replication layer split. He sounds like they know what's going on, and they realize this isn't something that we need a lot of people to test to find, which is what screwed 318. This is something we were able to find without going to scale. So hopefully that works, and hopefully something else that just randomly pops up when you go to scale doesn't. But it doesn't feel like the same kind of lead up. Yeah, 318 was bad.
But when it comes to that foundational technology, similar to what I was discussing in terms of the interaction lag, when you put it to Evocati and then ePTU and PTU, we're only getting a fraction of concurrency compared to live. So when we're looking at some of the issues that are performance related and are stability related, we might think we're golden, and then you go to a live audience and something else pops up that we're like, oh, this is a problem.
All right, I ate my words. I guess he still has that concern for 323.
We need to hotfix it. We need to evaluate it. So we could spend the next 2 years just trying to get it to be absolutely bug free, and then go live and it still have issues because it's such foundational.
There we go.
Like
Shut up, Space Tomato.
we've bought something off the shelf and gone, slot it in, it works as intended, great. So we're proving something out that's never been done before, or at least we've never done it before. So we need to make sure that when we're testing this, that we test it as broad as possible. And then that is the balance between, okay, is the gameplay what we want it to be, but we might be introducing something that is potentially reducing stability or reducing performance. And when you look at reducing performance, that then has an impact on all the other things. So interaction lag, for example, people going up to doors and going, the doors are broken. Well, actually, no, that's just interaction lag. Your interaction's being backed up from, or the elevators are not working.
That's like the AI.
I'm stuck in my cockpit seat and I can't get out. It's not because your cockpit seat's broken. It's because the interaction was being absorbed and it was being queued in this giant queue trying to get through. So ultimately, you have to look at all of these different parameters, from the performance to stability, the new technology that we need to test, and all of the gameplay side of things. And you have to make a judgment call about, whether it's beneficial for us to put it into the live audience so that we can get as much feedback as possible to then continue to work on it, to continue along the development pipeline towards where we ultimately want to be, which is we've released server meshing, we can have servers that have got hundreds and thousands of players playing all together. So it's never as black and white as just, it's good enough, let's ship it. It's always about, well, we go, okay, are we going to accept that we might run into more issues than we'd like to, but we need to do this to test this thing? And when we say testing a specific thing, it's also not about saying, oh, well, this issue was live on PTU. Sometimes that issue is live on PTU, but we don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
Because it's so complex.
That's the big one.
And then it's like, well, we can keep putting speculative fixes in, and speculative fix and speculative fix, and optimize this area of the code and optimize this. And is it the networking? Is it the player interaction system? Is it game code? And sometimes you need to go broad to be able to find it. And I think that's where it's never as easy as it sounds.
I'm so happy you said that. That's the big thing that I think gets lost in the you should just let it cook argument. It's that we can see this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. That's not the same as seeing the cause.
Exactly.
And in order to find a solution, you have to find the cause. So we can see all these things, and we look at it. We looking at the same thing that our players are looking at, and see that, okay, that's broken, that's broken, that's broken. But we're not finding the root cause of it because concurrency is only at this level. And so putting it on our live alpha environment, that's the big thing that environment can do for us. It stresses it to the point where now causes reveal themselves and solutions can be built.
Yes, exactly. And to be clear, we'd never push something out.
So at some point that has to change. I'm thinking, I don't know if that they probably won't wait until 1.0 for that to change. They'll probably be around like beta time, beta, quote unquote. But this is very much becoming a game that people see as just a game they can play. And like, it does need to be a stable environment for people to play. We're all about the testing. We're all about the testing of these systems. But there's like a huge amount of this community that never goes anywhere near the testing. They don't go on the websites. They're not at the Discord servers. They're not watching ISC or SCL. They're just playing a game that they saw some cool freaking trailers for on YouTube and wanted to play a space game. And like, that's sort of the double-edged sword of having an open development game that's, you know, playable and being made. It's like, yeah, you guys need to be testing this stuff, but also you've basically got people who are running their main game in your environment now. And that's their making. That's their doing. Good for them that they did it, but support those people to an extent.
That was knowingly just broken across the board.
Right.
Like, we would never want to do that because that would just be a poor experience. People would stop playing the game and then we wouldn't get the concurrency for us to be able to find the issues. So we're always going to want to strike that balance between, you know, we are not a fully live polished game. We are an alpha game. And we have to strike that balance with, we want to keep improving the game every patch so that people come to it and they enjoy the gameplay experience. I mean, that's my ultimate goal. But we still have these technology ambitions for us to be able to achieve the overall goal. And those are steps along the way. And this will be the same when we do server meshing. We will have scenarios with server meshing that it's such a foundational technology that we will find things and we will fix them and fix them and fix them and fix them. But we will definitely, I can guarantee it right now, when we put server meshing live, we will find issues that either have been exacerbated by something or XYZ. So that's just the nature of the beast.
That's going to be painful. Hey, Bucket Nate, I'm sorry, I missed your sub earlier, man. Thank you so much for continuing that one at 4 months. Appreciate your support.
All right. 2 more questions about 323 before we move into the near future and stuff.
Yeah.
These are all big ticket direction things, so sorry for backing so many of them up on you, Rich, here. It seems like there were a lot of things thrown into this patch. 323 is arguably the biggest patch Star Citizen's ever attempted, and then even with cargo and hangars coming in at 323X, it's still the biggest patch I think we've put out. With 3.0, you might be able to argue certain
3.0,
things.
man.
Was it too much? Or should we have done smaller? Should this have been the 323, 1, 2, 3, 4 with all these things from the get-go? Was it too much? Is it just this is how it happens? What's your view on this?
I think from my perspective, and ultimately I was responsible for this, so this helps.
Go big or go home.
Yeah. I didn't want the transition of features from Squadron 42 into Star Citizen to take like 12 months. Because what it would have done is, first off, people have seen these features for a long time. And if we're spending 6, 8, 9, 12 months getting them over into the game, I think it would have detracted away from all of the features that we want to add to Star Citizen. So I wanted to make sure, and I wanted to push the team to deliver the features into Star Citizen in a good manner, so that we could then transition on to the features that are really more specific to Star Citizen, like cargo, like resource network, like base building, like the features that are not going to be in Squadron. So I wanted to make sure that we tried our best to have that to be as shortest period of time possible, so that, you know, there's the old adage, if you've got 4 weeks, you'll take 4 weeks. And I wanted to make sure that we tried to get it in a good manner as possible, so that we can start moving Star Citizen forward. And I think ultimately, you know, that was my decision. I stand by that decision, and you know, that's the reason.
Yeah, it's really, it is. I'm not gonna lie. As much as this all makes sense that Richard Tyrer is sitting here explaining all this, it's kind of crazy to go all the way back here.
If you took
and
squad,
hold on, I think he explains somewhere in here.
You've your new title is Squadron 42 FPS Game Director.
that is correct.
And with that, you're going to be moving from the day-to-day activities of putting stuff into Star Citizen and moving towards a more Squadron 42 focus.
This is September 3rd, 2021. This is almost 3 years ago.
With that, let's talk. Let's set the table here. Let's talk about how your team and its work had previously.
Yo, Rycops just gifted out 10 members over on YouTube. Oh boy, that means YouTube alerts are gonna be popping off for a little while. Yo, man, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you so much for the support. Way to, yeah. Thank you.
Straddle the line
Thank you
between
very
Star Citizen and Squadron 42.
So the first thing to note is that while my title has changed, my previous role of core gameplay director or core gameplay pillar director is still there. I'm still doing that. This is just in addition to that. So the way that we worked was that obviously the company or Cloud Imperium is set up into these pillars. And each of the pillars has representative teams that have areas of expertise on that pillar. So the core gameplay pillar essentially incorporates the actor feature team and the actor tech team, the weapon feature team, and the weapon content team. And it did used to incorporate Fire Sprite as well for Arena Commander. So those four teams, as you're probably well aware, are dedicated and focused around.
See if I can find the part where he actually talks about the fact, like what they're doing with this all. Let's go up here.
Retrospectives that I did in the last 2 quarters. But the way we'd work is we get the trolley push pull system and we go, okay, right, how's it going to be used in the PU? Well, in the PU, maybe it's going to be used for cargo and moving things around, and also for what you'd expect, like puzzles. So when you go to mission, maybe I can't get access up high. I need to move something so I can then mantle it and climb up. The stereotypical, action adventure type of puzzle. And that's really where it's more appropriate in Squadron, because obviously Squadron has all the same content in terms of like the vehicles and the armor and so on. And then Squadron has its own specific things. PU has its own specific things. But how you use these features, we will always deliver something in a systemic fashion. So for example, if we were just making a single player game, you could make trolley push pull just be a movable physics object and be done with it. Because we know it's going into the PU, we went the extra mile and be like, okay, well, it needs to take into account there's gravities, there's different gravity that you can be in, or other people can jump on that because it's
jumping forward a bit again. He's got a very specific thing to say in this episode. I'm trying to find.
Worked, and we would do the same and give it to the level. So the Squadron level design team, for example, is a content team. So we would be there at the top developing these features in coordination with the other leadership, and then we deliver it to the content teams to then kind of execute into the individual projects. The way it kind of works right now is that we would deliver it maybe before the content teams will have access to it, and then they'll put a wrapper around
Here's
it.
the important
That's
part.
kind of how it's previously worked. To be honest, it's kind of unique in game development. It's not something that happens everywhere. I mean, it's something that's definitely new. I've only ever seen at Cloud Imperium, but it's the nature of how we're developing all of these different projects.
When was the actor feature team created? 2015, 2016?
Well, Jens is probably the first.
That wasn't
I
the
think.
important part.
Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the first ones. I think we're talking a while ago.
Okay, so that's how the team has worked,
Bro.
from then up until now. Now,
Rycops, dude, what the Are you getting these memberships with AUEC, my dude? Jesus. Talk about MVP on a good Monday. Hello, good Monday. Thank you. Thank you very much. As the alert will say over and over again. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you very
while
much.
we don't necessarily talk about it at all the time because we want to preserve many of the surprises, the plot points, the character points of Squadron 42. Development of Squadron 42 has been continuing right alongside Star Citizen this whole time.
Yep.
Recently, we recognized we identified a need for a change.
Thank you very
with
much.
Squadron 42, with the way that we've been developing Squadron 42. Talk to me about what we realized what that need was.
Here's the important
So
part.
the biggest thing is kind of how I discussed there. You
very
have the
much.
feature team and you have the content teams. The biggest thing is that we wanted to create a closer relationship between the people who are making the features and the content, and especially considering I'm the arbiter or I'm responsible for the FPS experience. So when we've had discussions with Chris and talking about it, we wanted to create a closer relationship between the feature teams and the level designers, who are basically the people who are using, they're essentially the client who are utilizing these features. And with Nick, who's the current creative director on Squadron 42, Nick Elms, we wanted, obviously Squadron's a big project, and because we've got such a kind of a good delineation between like the FPS and the vehicle side of things, there was two kind of things that we identified. One is that Nick could use some support so that he could kind of really focus on the flight side of things, which is where all of his experience has been, so that he can really hone down on that and really work with John on the vehicle pillar and that side of things and push that forward. And on the actor side was that we wanted a closer relationship between the technical designers and the systems designers, because the technical designers can help more on the technical side of things with implementing like AI and so on and so forth. So there was lots of these different individual reasons, like a closer relationship with AI in terms of the technical implementation with the engineers, with the level designers, and kind of bridging that gap, which is usually a traditional pipeline. It's just something that the way the pillars are set up, it kind of creates this two-step process. So that's where kind of I came in to kind of come over. So essentially all of the FPS level design teams and the social teams on Squadron, essentially anything related to do with the character gameplay, they're kind of coming and being absorbed onto the core gameplay pillar. And that's why I said I'm still doing the core gameplay pillar direct. That's still a role that I fulfill. Mm-hmm. I just have a superseding role that kind of encompasses that plus the level design aspect. So that's where I'm coming on to help out on.
And for the longest time, just for context, we were never hearing about core gameplay as its own segment. But if you haven't noticed in the monthly reports now, they just basically include all of these different teams in core gameplay now. So this is kind of the type of gameplay he's talking about. If you want to know what he's mostly involved in, take a look at these sections in the monthly report.
The game direction for the FPS side of things. And
so it's 2021.
Skipping a beat, because what would happen is we go, okay, this is a feature that we want to introduce, like trolley push pull or whatever, or any of the weapons or armor or any of the other mechanics we want. And then there'll be a step of teaching that to the level designers and what they need to do. But now they're going to be part of that process, which is a more traditional way of doing it. Generally, you would sit down and you would work, the level designers and the system designers and the technical designers, they kind of work together alongside like the environment artists and the animators and so on. And they'd work together to create a thing. So for example, let's say I take body dragging. If we were going to make body dragging, generally what you do is you go, hey, we've got a level. It's a stealth level. We need to.
So he's not saying the quiet part out loud.
For some folks. While the Star Citizen universe is a sandbox, it's open, wide.
Start implementing these features within Squadron, but still taking into account the PU considerations, because that's still part of my responsibilities. And then they will go to the content teams, but it will hopefully they'll be more proven and more executed because we've already implemented them into actual real gameplay scenarios, rather than like test maps or testing out theories and so on and so forth.
Basically, at this point, Richard was coming on and identifying that they were going to start developing things solely for Squadron 42, but those things would end up coming into Star Citizen with a higher level of polish and just in general better development. So that's what we're seeing in a big way with 323, but it took more than almost 3 years to do it. We were not thinking it was going to take that long when he was there talking about it.
I think Tyler made a post on Spectrum yesterday about how what our expectations of 2024 is, what we want to hit. We want 2024 to be a watershed year in the development of Star Citizen, with some pretty big milestones this year.
Yep.
So yeah, so a big part of that, and you set that goal, and part of pursuing that goal is you got to get all this Squadron stuff in there now, get it out of the way so we can start on the new stuff.
Well, absolutely. I needed to get that stuff done so that I can move on to the things that we want to add to the game this year that I think will start to define Star Citizen as a massively multiplayer online game.
I often say there's at times there's very little difference between the people who make Star Citizen and the people who play Star Citizen. I think sometimes we're just as anxious to get to the next thing, to put this stuff, to get this stuff in and get these features in, as our players are to play them.
Absolutely. I mean, when I look at Star Citizen itself, it's a concatenation of a lot of features and a lot of content.
Good word.
I want it to be a cohesive experience that is all tied together, and I want to get there as soon as possible. I want somebody to be able to play the game and understand all the things that they have available to them, and I want that to be a good onboarding experience, and then to have thousands of hours of gameplay and content for people to be able to play. Now, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of gameplay already in the game, but it's in isolated pockets. It's like, if you want to just be a miner, great, you can go and do mining, you can do that loop. But I want the connections. I want the interwebbing. That's the difference between features and content and a game. And I want to push towards that as quickly as possible.
Okay. So we got about 20 minutes left. We've done 2/3 of the show on 323 and stuff. Let's go into the near future. Anytime we put these question threads up,
the future,
the patch, and half the questions are what's next. So let's start talking a little bit about what's next and some bigger direction stuff. Cargo elevators, personal persistent hangars, that stuff, freight elevator stuff, that's been pushed into a 323.x patch. We're not going to sit here and say whether it's 0.1 or 0.2 or whatever. We've learned that lesson. Talk to us about the current state. How's it going?
Oh, this one's me as well.
How's it going? Yes.
So I played Cargo. I loaded it up. I went through the flow. I went to my storage access. I requested all my personal gear. It was delivered to me. I then went to the ASOP terminal.
Can we chill with the arguing in YouTube chat, please?
Came
Thank you.
up on its ship elevator. I went down, and then I went to my freight elevator, and then I requested my goods, and we had some issues. And those issues that have been resolved or are in the process of being resolved now, ultimately I was able to step through those issues to be able to get to the point where I could get my cargo and then manually load my cargo up into the ship and then take off. But if you look at Cargo, nobody can play the game without going through Cargo. It's a foundational feature. Like, you can't, it's like inventory was a foundational feature. You can't play the game without just interacting with the system. If you want to get a ship, you interact with the system. You want to get something from your inventory, you interact with this system.
Yeah.
So we can't be in a position where we're releasing it in a state that is essentially golden from the get-go. So we needed more time to be able to do that. Akin to what I just said, if you've got 4 weeks, you take 4 weeks. I didn't want to push it to the next patch. I didn't feel it was needed to get to the next patch. We are pushing hard to get it into a dot patch for the 323 cycle. And that is currently the intention, but we won't push it live until...
All right. I said to stop arguing. I don't care if you're talking. You're making my chat uncomfortable. Knock it off. Or take it somewhere else. Rycops, thank you for the super chat. Like, y'all could talk, but try to keep the vibes chill. It's not just about whether or not you're like calling each other names. Just keep things chill.
Until it is working and is infallible, because it's a core feature. It's a core feature in the flow. It's the first thing you do. You wake up from your hab, you go to your hangar, and you get your ship. So it needs to be solid, and it needs to be really good. So we just need to make sure that it is the best it can be.
Oh my God, I said you're not calling names. Just move on.
Before we push it live.
JJ, we'll give Rich a break here.
Yeah. Back to back to back.
Once the personal persistent instance hangers come out in the 323X patch, will our landing zone remain the same as what players choose when 323 drops? They set the home base and then you can't change it for the time being. We're going to have an opportunity to change it again when the point X comes out, or will they be stuck with whatever choice they make in 323?
Hopefully Rich isn't next, because this is quite a quick answer, if you wanted a break. But yeah, so basically we're not doing a full reset, so your home location is as it was when you last set your character. When we do a full reset in future, that will give you an opportunity to choose a new home location.
Thank God we're not moving our orc home.
And people will probably correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but you can use the character reset function on the website. But, and I'll look into the camera when I say this will mean that you lose everything that you've earned in game. So if that function is there and available, just be mindful when you actually use it, just because you will lose your UEC, you'll lose your bought ships in game, and things like that. So if you are really, really desperate to choose a new home location, I believe that is an option that you can pick and choose.
So we'll just assume that's off the table, though, because you don't want to lose all your stuff. So
correct.
The answer is actually...
I would wait or move your things manually.
Okay.
To a new location.
Okay. And then the follow-up question, obviously the 4-star locations in 323, Microtech, Hurston, Area 18, Crusader. No left for Grimhex?
So not in 323. This question coming up actually kind of spurred me on to go and investigate this more to find out what was involved. We do actually, funnily enough, internally have Grimhex as a developer location, so it is set up to be a home location for us. But there are potential knock-ons with that, so we can't just switch it on and assume everything's going to be okay, because if you think about the landing zones, they're huge, they've got loads of facilities, some of them are set up for the new player experience and things like that. So obviously Grimhex is a much smaller, condensed location. You've also got the problem that if you start to leave the station, you're more than likely going to be around other people who are going to be ready and willing to shoot you. So if a new player then accidentally picks Grimhex, not understanding the implications, that could be very frustrating. So there's a few things that I need to look into and chase, but something I want to do. So I think we can definitely do it in the future.
I hope that, what are we missing? The new player's guide, the tutorial is on RCorp and Microtech, right? We still need it in Lorville and Orison. I wonder when that's going to happen.
Okay, that all makes sense. That's our near future 323X whatnot. Let's talk some general questions, some general direction process questions. I don't often get a chance to have game leadership like top of the pyramid. There's literally a pyramid now. Top of the pyramid stuff here. So I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to ask you some bigger picture stuff. Keeping in mind that there is a little thing called CitizenCon coming in October this year.
And we got to save all the good news for that.
And whatnot. Rick, I think this one's for you. Arena Commander.
Yeah.
How do you see Arena Commander? Sometimes it seems like it's really important. Sometimes it seems like CIG has completely forgotten about it. Sometimes there's a theaters of war. Sometimes there's years of complete silence.
The three of us spent a lot of time working on Theaters of War. It's it's something that's very passionate for us. Like, we're excited to do things with AC, but like the priority right now is Star Citizen. And one of the ways that we're leveraging Arena Commander is that it's a great test bed for some of the features that aren't quite ready for content. So like something that may not be ready for an actual patch, but stuff that we want to test out, like resource networks, engineering, stuff that we can test in a specific game mode in Arena Commander and get some insights before we go full content with it in Star Citizen.
I want to be able to launch Arena Commander from inside the PU. How about that? Oh God, I would love that. That'd be so nice. All those times when I'm getting ferried around because nobody lets me fly because I'll just crash. I can just be in there playing gun game or gun rush.
Hot off the press, I did have a conversation with Jens this morning about potentially.
It is the plan.
Potential is the specific word here. That we might use Arena Commander to validate the new spawn closet for FPSAR.
Oh, shoot. PvE Arena Commander. I mean, we have that in ships, but in FPS? Holy crap. Actual good running AI in an easy to play environment?
Okay. That's it. You had a lot of build up there, and then how's that going to manifest?
Well, we've never had PvE FPS in Arena Commander.
It's
Yeah.
There we go.
like a horde mode, game mode.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I just want to make sure that the lead wasn't buried.
Oh
there.
my
Thank you for
gosh.
clarifying.
I thought you were Jared. I thought you had that.
No, I had it. I'm asking the question that somebody wants. Okay, next 7 questions are for Rich. No, okay. JJ, again, talking a bit bigger picture stuff. The go no go process, the very way that these decisions are made to whether this feature should be included and whatnot. This process has changed and evolved over the years. It's not like we just set something up in 2014 and kept the same process since then. Talk me through.
You hope not.
Huh?
Just
What?
for the record, because I do see this in chat, it totally does matter to have AI in Arena Commander. Do you notice how much more smoothly Arena Commander runs in the PU? I mean, even PvP matches, there's still some problems because it's a little janky, but the actual server performance is so much different than in that's why I'm excited to see it in Arena Commander. That would be, oh god, that's gonna be awesome. Yeah, it was accessible back in the day from the SimPods. That was pretty cool.
I hope we didn't.
Well, I've been here. I'm on a decade here. I know we did. I know we did. Here, talk to me about what the go no go process is like today.
Yeah, so for us, it's a much more gradual process. There's not really one moment in time where it's like, is this thing ready or not? It's more of a constant review of how features are progressing. And we like to be very hands-on with the team and with the features. So typically, we will be playing the features regularly, individually, as a group, or with the team that's actually making the feature, giving feedback, trying to harden it, and also at the same time, evaluating where it's at. So there are several moments in time as we're going where there will be a point where we have to decide, is it ready or not? But there's no kind of like line in the sand necessarily where we go, this is definitely not going or this is definitely going. So there'll be points in the process, like we had to do with cargo, where it's basically like, this is a core feature, it's not where we want it to be. At this moment in time, we want to push it a bit further out to make sure we've got the time available for it. But ultimately, kind of as I say, the process has changed for us in that, you know, there used to kind of be more one date, everyone's working towards that date. We are constantly trying to be on the ball with all of these individual features and knowing exactly where they're at and if we're happy with them.
Well, you know, for cargo, it was you came to me on the day of ISC and was like, is it in 323.0 or is it in a
Yes.
.x? And I was like, I'm still deciding.
So you want to air the laundry? You want to air the laundry? Okay. So the day that our cargo episode was supposed to air, did air, was the day of the go no go.
Oh.
So I had 2 versions of hosting. We often do, where it says, it's going to be in 323, and one is, it's still targeting 323, or one where it's not going to be in 323, it's going to be in 323X. And you might remember we were so good this season about getting all our episodes out at 8 a.m. Pacific on the dot because we moved editorial over here. We've done a lot of structural improvements thanks to David and Tom over there who've made things a lot better. We had a great streak going of every episode right there at 8, and then it's like, well, what version do we put out? And he's literally in there, surrounded by everybody, playing it. That whole story he's telling you, playing it, going through. And I'm just like pacing out behind.
Breathing on the window.
And then he was like, come on, which version? Just to see whether it gets the go or go no. And it was we still don't know yet. We're gonna give him another 2 weeks, and then we're gonna make the hard call.
Yes.
So it was like, all right, so we go with what we call the truth in the moment. The truth in that moment is that it was still targeted for 323, so we go out.
And I wanted to give the team every opportunity to be able to get it into the game, but it needed to pass the certain level of quality bar to get in there. And ultimately, they didn't manage to do that. And, that was a decision I had to make.
All right, we got 8 minutes. Let's see if we can't rapid fire some of these. Just a few more questions here. Rick.
Yeah.
Is this even a thing? We've seen a hot take about bed logging. not fitting the vision
This is
of
the
what
one.
Star Citizen is going to be. Care to elaborate on what you're thinking about doing with bed logging and how logging in and out will look in the future? Is there a change to bed logging? Did I miss something?
I'm not sure what that hot take is, but we're definitely in favor of bed logging. In fact, in the future, we plan to give the player buffs for getting a good night's sleep in bed, and have that be part of the game loop. But we don't want to limit the player to that. It's like having a bed shouldn't be a requirement to log out of the game. In fact, in the future, we want, no matter where you log out, that's where you log back in. You have all the same missions, like we want your place in the universe to be persistent no matter where you log out. So that's where we're going.
So it'll be an option, but not a requirement.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta see what they're gonna do with that, I guess. I don't know.
Rich, we're coming back to you. These are two big ones. What do you want first? Bad guys or solo players?
Let's do bad guys.
Okay.
You're a bad solo
Let's see.
player.
So currently, it is very hard to be a bad guy in Star Citizen. Basically, you get huge disadvantages having crime stat, and there's not really any place to go besides Grimhex. What's the future hold for the bad guys?
Well, Pyro is a good one. So, I mean, ultimately, I want bad guys. I don't think bad guys are always the bad guys.
Okay, I'll give my reason for the bed logging, Love. I think it acts as a really good mechanic for balancing things, ships, locations, exploration. I think the limitation of being able to log out somewhere that is a physical representation in the game is good. Now, they might still be looking at this, right? He's talking about beds, but I'm thinking things like portable sleeping bags and cots that you can take out with you that would make you have to think, as a long-term, long-distance player, I can't just walk out there with my undersuit on and then save in the middle of a moon and I'm good, because I was in the middle of a moon and I still had an hour left of oxygen. I would prefer if it was like, oh, well, I'm going to be out there for a while. I'm going to have to bring a backpack with a bed cot in it. Then I'll log out at the bed. Likewise, ships, what's the point of having 20 beds on a Javelin or something if people don't need those to log out? It's just an extra. That means you're just going in, swapping out, right? I don't know. I guess that could have been the same way with bed logging being required, but it feels like ships are also based on their value as a log on, log off location. The 100i is a really good ship because it has a bed over the Pisces. If you don't need a bed to log off, then the Pisces is just as much a respawn point as the 100i, plus it has 2 jump seats. So why would I get the 100i? Well, it gives you the bed logging benefits and the refinery that it comes with, but I feel like that specific benefit of having the bed and that putting it over the other starter ship that doesn't have the bed was kind of a big point to suggest that starter ship. If you don't need a bed to log on, I'm never going to tell people to get a 100i over a Pisces. It's Pisces. It's got 2 seats on it already. Why would you not want that? So, I don't know, man. That seems like that was the way that they were designing the game. They were designing ships around that idea. They were designing like respawns around that idea, and maybe they're changing it in some significant way. We'll see.
There's not really any place to go besides Grimhex. What's the future hold for the bad guys?
Well, Pyro is a good one. So, I mean, ultimately, I want bad guys. I don't think bad guys are always the bad guys. If you're a pirate, you might have moral motivations.
Corsairs.
But essentially, we want gameplay to be associated in areas that are lawful and unlawful. So obviously in Stanton, there should be a greater risk and greater reward for you being able to pirate. But then you're going to run into the issues that, the question alludes, that, you get a crime stat, you're going to be hunted down, what's happening. So when we start to have Pyro and we start to develop those systems and we just start to develop the gameplay between multiple systems as well, we want Pyro to offer lots of opportunity for players to be able to role play as a pirate or a gang member, or they will have opportunity to work more in the shadows for like more of a organized crime. So for example, that you can then go into a lawful zone as an organized criminal and be able to perform more criminal activities, but from the shadows. So the expectation is that we want to create gameplay loops, and we've actually discussed those internally. They're planned out and have guilds that you can join that offer unlawful activities. And at the start, you might just be a thug with a ship, but by the end of it, you might be John Wick. So it's about having that progression within the game. And the other side of things is piracy or unlawful gameplay doesn't always have to be against lawful players. So that's something that in Stanton right now, if you want to go and be a pirate, you have to pirate the people who don't necessarily want to be pirated, right? And that always leads to a winner and a loser. And I think when you're looking at a game, and this has come up a lot in Star Citizen, are we a PvE game or are we a PvP game? From my perspective, we're both. And I want to create loops that support both. And that means on the PvP or the piracy side, where you want to become a pirate, I want to offer you to be able to pirate PvE and AI players, or should I say AI agents, and obviously players. But I also want to provide activities within Pyro that are beneficial, that force you against other pirates as well, so that you can have really cool, engaging PvP combat against people who want to have really cool, engaging PvP combat. And that means putting systems in place that, A, you can find where that is, and bringing people to areas that they know it's going to happen. So there is definitely lots of plans for both bad guys and PvP, and lawful guys and lawful PvP. So I think the first aspect is that we need more than one system that is just fully policed by the advocacy or the UEE. We need to have systems where it's more appropriate.
Yeah, this is
one. Use the term
that's a big thing
that's
not talked about very much. That's going to make a big difference in the game. It's different star systems. Well, they're going to give you a pretty different experience. You rock. You know that? Dark Horse. Thanks for the super chat. What's my multi-chat add-on? Thanks for the great streams. No problem. I'm using Restream for the chat right now.
To my bad girls out there.
Yes. Guys, girls, and robots.
All right. 2 more questions here. The other big one for you. What place is there for a solo player in Star Citizen? I think I'll go get a drink and leave Rich.
Yeah. I think there should be a lot. Obviously, if you want to be a solo player, just because we're a massively multiplayer online game shouldn't preclude you from playing solo. I've played many MMOs where I've just played by myself and got through to the end game. There will obviously be certain prerequisites as you move towards the larger goals in the game that are going to make it difficult for you to achieve as a solo player. For example, if you wanted to try and earn an Idris in the game and earning reputation to be able to, figure out how to be able to manufacture your own Idris, and then you need to go and gather all the resources to be able to do that, that is a very, very large initiative. Almost to the point where when you even have that Idris, you're going to need multiple people to fly it proficiently. So I think, that doesn't mean that there is not going to be a large amount of content that is achievable by solo players, that they'll be able to have enjoyment and combat, for trading, to mining, to salvage, to all the other aspects of gameplay that we want to be. If you want to be a farmer, you can go and be a farmer, right? But the expectation is that, we are a massive multiplayer online game. We will have a large amount of content that is available to solo players, but that does mean there will be some content that is easier to achieve with more than one player.
I think he's being generous when he says it's easier to achieve. There's going to be things you just can't do as a solo player. You can't go and just take on Xenothreat, right? You have to encounter other players for that kind of stuff. You can't pilot an Orion. I mean, you can pilot it. You might not be able to efficiently use it. And that's okay. Like, I feel like you need group gameplay in a game like this, where clearly there's a lot of emphasis on working together. Like, engineering is basically all about group gameplay.
Much like real life. It's like there's lots of things you can do on your own, and some things you have to accept a little bit of help on.
Yeah, we're not putting hard limits on. You can always try and do it yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, you can get all the materials for an Idris. You can build it yourself. Like, if
there will be.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in fact, in the future, we've talked about the possibility of being able to hire NPCs to help you fly your ship and stuff like that. I mean, that's probably far down the road, but it's something we want to do to enable that kind of gameplay. So.
Yeah, that's literally probably the oldest thing, going all the way back to the Wingman's Hangar days. So happy to hear that it's not completely gone.
It's in the roadmap.
Yep.
All right. Last question. This one also has a specific instruction for it. Make sure I get this right. Okay, hold on. Go ahead and follow me to JJ Tom.
Look at his face.
Hey, JJ. Why the F don't we have night vision?
Ah,
WTF?
there it is.
Well,
Is that another WTF? Come on.
Night vision, yo. Night vision.
Okay. So night vision. So I've got some good news. I saw and was playing with night vision on weapon optics yesterday. So we have got it to a point where we can put them on the optic lenses using our new optic tech that came in with 323. This is not to say that this is coming out with 323, to be very clear, but it does mean that we can look to a fairly close release whenever we feel like we can get the content out to people, so people can actually start using these. And it works, it exposes more light when you're on the dark side of a planet, so you can actually look around and see what you're trying to shoot. And it's a little bit more uncomfortable to look around in a well-lit environment, kind of as you'd expect. So that's the good news. The slightly less good news is that I know people are probably going to start asking, when can we get it on visors and ship cockpits and things like that? The answer there is we need to assign some more time to it. It's a bit more complex. The new optic system gave us a really good opportunity to play with some of those settings, but the visors and the cockpits aren't set up in the same way as those. So it's something that we're going to start looking into and finding where we can fit it in the roadmap, because we definitely do want to provide that for people, but we've got some design questions to answer first and some engineering to do as well.
Nice.
So that will come a bit further down the line.
Honestly, though, this is, y'all, I bet you guys, check this out. How reliably we can do this. Let's type in Star Citizen Live EUPU team and Tema. EUPU Tema. Here we are 2 years ago. We had an EUPU Q&A with the team. Let's see if they have chapters here. Chapters, and we're gonna looking at any. Can we just? No, nothing here. All right, next one. Here. Let's see. Refueling. Oh my God, there's so much stuff here. There we go. What is this? March 25th, 2022.
All right. And last question. Did you enjoy putting together your Lego Discovery? And can you implement night vision in order to make it easier?
I don't get how night vision would make it easier, but it's a fun Lego piece. It's a fun Lego piece.
I don't know. It's just what it said.
How
All
often?
Right.
Good Lord! How often do we get night vision questions in Star Citizen?
We're coming back after we had to reschedule your show last time. That's been Star Citizen Live.
Did he not even answer it?
Is these kind of a brief, it's data to be done.
They didn't actually even answer it. Okay. All right. USPU team. Let's see if anything comes up for them. They don't have it on here. Sometimes a good Samaritan in the comments posts all the stuffy stuff, the thingy things. It's easier to just go to Starchives, great resource. You can just come in here and literally type in anything you want to know that they've covered in Star Citizen at some point, and it will pull up every video where it's been mentioned. At least it works for most things. Some things are a little bit awkward, but you can see here, just throughout the years, people out here just asking about night vision constantly. Here's another one. Someday.
Will there ever be practical night vision that players can?
There it is there. How about here?
You mentioned, well, you sort of mentioned night vision, but you got close enough that we can't avoid it now.
There it is. There. Is this a night vision question for John Crew? I love those.
or no night vision. I know
it is
Todd
John Crew.
is very keen on having some night vision.
Just constantly, we're like, where is night vision? There's Johnny. This is literally
have been mentioned a lot.
This is literally the guy that he just did this to in this video. That's him. Being asked in 21.
On Spectrum, we talked about it with the UI team about 2 weeks ago. Anything you can tell us about night vision?
Again and again and again. Here it is again. Again, 2021, November.
He wants to know, taking the new tech that we've got, with all this 3D stuff and so on, what can we do to make the Moby-Glass feel cool but still be usable? So,
did not give us the right time.
All right, so
there's Bone.
Night vision. Oh, cat alert.
Bone, give us night vision.
Hold on.
Hi, sorry.
Hi, cat.
Bone, night vision on.
Okay, we took our cat moment. Night vision. Night vision is a big one. Obviously, in space, it's always.
So y'all can kind of get the idea of how obsessed the community has been with having night vision in the game, because it's I mean, if you've flown on the dark side of a planet, you know how much we need it.
To that, one is that we've broken the back of getting it working, so now it's more of just a content and scheduling problem rather than a technical problem, which is great because it means, and it is really good, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great.
And the one thing is that it's not, I want to make sure that everyone's clear, it's not true night vision, it's light enhancement. So when you're looking at something, even though it's on the dark side of the moon, you still get a very good clear picture, you can still call things out, but it's not what you'd imagine as stereotypical night vision.
So it's not green?
It's like upping the exposure on a camera.
Yeah.
With
It's the difference between projecting a light, like an infrared light, and seeing the red infrared light versus just amplifying the light that's already there, like a starlight.
Yeah, so it will give you, for the player's perspective, it will give them what they want, they can see, and they'll be able to pick things out in the darkness. But I just want to clarify, that's what we're working towards, because that's a more achievable solution for us, still gives us what we want, and like JJ said, we do want to then propagate that to the visors.
Literally the only thing that we need is the ability to just make out details. I want to just have depth perception at night, some level of depth perception, so I know, there's a mountain in front of me.
So yes, you can send your letters of encouragement to JJ, Johnny Asivius, Manchester Goods Yard, and don't worry about the spelling on this one. Just tell him how much you want it. All right.
He still calls him Johnny Jasivius.
Your letters of encouragement to JJ, Johnny Asivius, Manchester Goods Yard, and don't worry about the spelling.
Pretty sure his name is Jasivius.
On this one.
Or because he did that in one show, and everybody was kind of like, "Oh, all right. That's different."
That's it, gentlemen. All right. 502. You survived, Rick. You survived your very first video of any kind for CIG, and it was an hour-long live show. How do you feel?
I feel great. This was fun.
Good.
I'll do it again.
Folks watching home, don't forget, check out yesterday's Inside Star Citizen. Detailed all the different features and content coming in the Alpha 323 season of patches. 3330.1 point whatever. Check that out. Plus, I revealed the new Mirai Pulse, which is a very, very small little hover bike that seems like it can go anywhere a person can go, and I'm sure that's not going to cause any manner of trouble in 323. So check that out, and then come back next week. It's our Creature Feature 2 next week, I think, or might call it Paws and Claws. I don't know. I made the mistake.
Hold on, you didn't give us names.
Huh?
I've been watching your shows. You've been giving people names. What are our names?
Well, okay. Well, JJ's been owner of the coolest name in the whole company for years. Johnny Jasivius. It's a totally cyberpunk name. He was only slightly derailed when Cairo Goodbrand was around here. Cairo Goodbrand. He was commander guy at the Arena Man. He was Arena Man. Duncan is the Moist Master.
Tyra's got to just be like Squadron 42 guy, right? I feel like he's been the face of the whole Squadron 42 into Star Citizen movement.
The moist master.
Yeah, Will.
Oh,
Okay, actually, I don't want to know.
I'm done here. Can I go now?
I didn't think
I'm out.
I didn't think you knew what you were asking when you started the thing.
Yeah, I'm out.
But yeah, all right. So, and then come on, and then next week, Star Citizen Live is off. I'll be traveling to Belgium for the wonderful annual Beacon convention there on Saturday. So if you're going to that, I'll see you there. So for Star Citizen Live, I'm Jared. That was Rich. That was Rick. That was JJ. It's David and Tom behind the keys. Pete on the headset. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week on.
I thought he just said somebody peed on the headset. Oh God! I thought he was like, yeah, and Mark over there just peed on the headset.
See you, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Oh God. Okay. So Star Citizen Live. There's a lot of stuff to talk about there. They did say a lot here. Oh boy. All right. Night vision's cool, right? I don't even know where to start. You can go and listen to any of these answers they give about night vision. It's always being passed back and forth between this is the UI team, this is the features team, this is the engineering and graphics team, this is the gameplay features team, this is the engineering and graphics team, ship team. It gets passed back and forth because like it was a multi like who do you actually talk about? The people who are going to develop the feature or the engine team who is going to make the actual changes that enable that ability? It's the engine team. That's where it starts. So yeah, you can go and look at it all the times when they've talked about it, but it's been a long-term thing. Where is Tony Z? Fire? I don't know where Tony Z. I just put out a whole video. Put a whole bunch of work into a video to ask the same question, or a similar question, I guess, but I think the general idea to consider at this point is that, and I think that's what they're going to try and do here with the Star Citizen Live next quarter about Quantum. They don't want people to consider it being a one-person thing. And anytime, he's only presented, I think, on the system once by himself. But you do notice that like there's an entire economy team doing a lot of work, but generally his name is the only one that's brought up. And I think they're trying to, remind folks. Any questions about what we heard about today? Anything in particular that stood out to y'all? Oh boy, there was so much. Let's see. I think the bed logging was definitely a thing. It was kind of good what they were saying about being a bad guy, being a pirate. Organized crime missions is interesting. I'm wondering how they're going to handle the idea that you are an organized crime criminal in sort of safe quote unquote space. So like, could it be possible to be a smuggler who still doesn't get stopped and arrested immediately, whereas somebody else might be a ship hijacker and they will always get stopped? Can you do that sort of organized crime stuff and still hang out in the same circles as other people? Given total silence on all social media on stuff, I guess there's some personal life stuff going on. I hope everything is all right with him. Is he normally not silent on social media? I've actually never seen his stuff. Hey, Coffee. Wipe is still not clear. They are wiping your wallet. That's basically it. They're just wiping our wallets. What do I think is up with guilds? Well, I think they meant NPC guilds, like factions in the game, rather than our guilds, the ones that matter. It always freaking gives me a little fright whenever they talk about orgs. And I'm like, ooh, org talk. And then you realize they're just talking about in-game orgs with their reputation. He's still employed by CIG if you ask his LinkedIn. Okay, investigator Mrs. T. You gonna find this man LinkedIn? You gonna get him on Snapchat too? Huh? JK. I don't think Tony's much of a Snapchat guy. I think he's more Instagram. Lycos found it. Oh, what Lycos? You gonna find him on Snapchat too, huh? It's a better joke the second time. The UI team talked about orgs. Orgs. Yeah, they did. They talked quickly about the org tool, which would be great. A little app. Instead of corporations in Stanton, there will probably be a few gang factions. Yeah. I mean, we already know of them. There will be Ninetales, Dusters, Dread Pirates Roberts, the Hurston Workers Association. I don't think that's a gang necessarily, but it is a non-governmental entity. There'll be a few other factions in Stanton for sure. Don't even have Snapchat. What are we, 16? Hey! Snapchat is adding the ability... I can't remember what it was. It was a headline the other day I saw. And it was like, they're adding the ability to do something. And I was like, what? Really? That wasn't a thing already? You never know what Tony's into. Reputation, guilds, crafting, base building. Oh, you know what? That's actually something that they definitely got into, but didn't talk a ton about with the economy, was the base building and crafting. So I saw a couple questions in chat. It is confirmed. You're going to be able to craft anything in this game. Like that's... In fact, we can get to the place where they've confirmed that. Granted, they did just say you build an Idris. There's not really much else you can look for besides an Idris that would be you know, the biggest thing in the game to craft. But listen to this. This is from CitizenCon, talking a little bit about crafting and stuff.
Available and move on to the next area, or is it to be off grid and be completely self-sufficient? So with that, with your prep and everything like that, we've got blueprints. So the recipes, everything in the game is fabricated from a blueprint.
There you go.
Players are...
That's it right there. Everything in the game is built from a blueprint. These blueprints, man, imagine what they can do with blueprints like this. I mean, I'm sure this is something you guys have experienced in other MMOs, but I'm just thinking the exploration potential. We keep talking about what you want to find as an explorer. What if you find a blueprint for something just super freaking rare? And you don't even have to use it. You could sell it. You could pass it to your org so only they can create these things. Like, I never even cared about crafting when it was in the lead up to Star Citizen. It's still not really a big thing for me. But this is a huge part of money sink, end game, long-term play kind of stuff. Doesn't mean everything, the context only means everything craftable comes from blueprints. Fair. That's fair. The things that need to be crafted will come from blueprints. That might be what they're saying. So let's listen on.
Acquire blueprints via reputation rewards, missions, or rare NPCs. With any blueprint, you can actually do research on it and then create different variations. With materials, ranging from the common to ultra rare, you might find them at the local shop or have to travel around the universe to collect them. Unrefined, refined, simple materials, or even complex components will all go into the fabrication. With this, then you got location. Oh,
okay, now we're getting into the base building. So, you're right. Didn't necessarily confirm what is and is not available in crafting and fabrication. Here we go.
Fabrication. So when you basically build these buildings, they don't come with any furnishings. And if you didn't bring any with you, then you want to build a fabricator. So depending on what you want to build, there's different sizes of them that support buildings from decorations, armor, weapons, components, and even ships.
Okay, so we at least know there's armor, weapon, component, ships, I would assume ammo, and bases. So not everything, but a pretty wide selection of the stuff that we're interested in. So they did some talking about that last year, and that's why they're starting to be a little bit more liberal about that when they're talking on Star Citizen Live. This is the first Star Citizen Live where they casually talked about building Idrises repeatedly. Yeah. Yeah, they're feeling more comfy with that kind of stuff, eh? You remember this MMO and discovered a rare BP for a low-level legendary weapon, and that was through discovery. Had a monopoly for a long while. That's cool. Crafting an Idris would be stupid considering it's supposed to take a massive dry dock and workforce. Maybe you have to build that with the Pioneer. Yeah, we don't know how big base building is going to be. You could build a ship dock or a dry dock. Would it be a dry dock on land and then a wet dock in space? Or is that a vacuum dock then? Is there a wet dock? Can you wet dock a ship? Build it in the water? No wonder people enjoyed this so much. They hit a lot of really big ticket items. Hey, where did the timestamps go?
Is that
Space dock? Duh. Good call. If we assume they have meshing working, then we can start scaling up ideas a lot. I mean, we don't get to do anything. CIG gets to have all the fun. Then we find out later. I'm sure there'll be quality ratings for things that we're crafting. How does building an Idris make sense? It's made by a manufacturer. I cannot build a BMW, and even if I would, it would no longer be a BMW. I don't know. Maybe you have to steal it. Maybe you have to become a criminal and break into Aegis. You feel like the materials needed to build an Idris would be near impossible to build solo. Yeah, it'd take you forever. Just started playing this game yesterday. What are some fun things to do? Hey, I just made some videos on that, Eddie, if you want to check out the YouTube channel. A recent video is part 2, saying what is there to do in Star Citizen. For the most part, though, depends on what kind of gameplay you're into. Mercenary missions are pretty fun. I want to listen to this again because I didn't actually listen to this thing about being the pirate. For anybody who's watching the video, thank you for coming. Hope you enjoyed this. We're going to go now and have our own stream time. Bye. For everybody who's here for the stream, thanks for being here. Let's listen to this again because I didn't get to listen to this too much last time.
Currently, it is very hard to be a bad guy in Star Citizen. Basically, you get huge disadvantages having crime stat, and there's not really any place to go besides Grimhex. What's the future hold for the bad guys?
Or Pyro.
The funny thing is it's also really easy to be a bad guy because you can just kill people, and generally you don't get in much trouble until a little bit later, unless they press charges. But it's like there's not that much deterrent to being bad in the game that just yet, at least for a system like Stanton.
It was a good one. So, I mean, ultimately, I want bad guys. I don't think bad guys are always the bad guys. You know, if you're a pirate, you might have moral motivations.
Corsairs.
But essentially, we want gameplay to be associated in areas that are lawful and unlawful. So obviously in Stanton, there should be a greater risk and greater reward for you being able to pirate. But then you're going to run into the issues that, you know, the question alludes that, you know, you get a crime stat, you're going to be hunted down, what's happening. So when we start to have Pyro and we start to develop those systems and we just start to develop the gameplay between multiple systems as well, we want Pyro to offer lots of opportunity for players to be able to role play as a pirate or a gang member, or they will have opportunity to work more in the shadows for like more of a organized crime. So for example, that you can then go into a lawful zone as an organized criminal and be able to perform more criminal activities, but from the shadows. So the expectation is that we want to create gameplay loops, and we've actually discussed those internally. They're planned out and have guilds that you can join that offer unlawful activities. And at the start, you might just be a thug with a ship, but by the end of it, you might be John Wick. So it's about having that progression within the game. And the other side of things is piracy or unlawful gameplay doesn't always have to be against lawful players. So
I think it's worth noting that Stanton and Pyro might be actually kind of opposites of each other in terms of this. Stanton may be as lucrative for a criminal player to do missions in as Pyro is for a non-criminal player to do missions in. Stanton may be your default place for your less aggressive player. Pyro may be your default place for your more aggressive player. And there will be some interweaving between those two systems as the certain types of players from those systems decide that the money in the other system is worth more of it. That's why I kind of think that the whole reputation system and the way they're going to split up the systems might mean that while Stanton has less pirates and less people doing piracy kind of stuff, it also might mean that the pirates that are in Stanton are more highly skilled because they're the ones who are not concerned with the safeness of Pyro. Just got the game. Do you know how to quantum jump to a location to get them or steal or earn through rep? Wait, it doesn't have a POI to jump to for delivery jobs. You actually have to fly manually to those. But what I'll say, Mr. Polar, what you should do, look for a location. So if you're on the planet that you're on and you need to get down to a location that doesn't have a marker, look for a location past your destination, whether it's on the other side of the planet or moon or closer. Quantum jump to that location, but right as you're taking your arc over the planet, wherever it is you need to stop, press and hold the U key to turn your ship off. That's going to stop you about as close as you can get via quantum travel to where you want to go. Then you manually travel the rest of the way. It won't get you all the way there, but it should help.
And that's something that in Stanton right now, if you want to go and be a pirate, you have to pirate the people who don't necessarily want to be pirated, right? And that always leads to a winner and a loser. And I think when you're looking at a game, and this has come up a lot in Star Citizen, are we a PvE game or are we a PvP game? From my perspective, we're both. And I want to create loops that support both. And that means on the PvP or the piracy side, where you want to become a pirate, I want to offer you to be able to pirate PvE and AI players, or should I say AI agents, and obviously players. But I also want to provide activities within Pyro that are beneficial, that force you against other pirates as well, so that you can have really cool, engaging PvP combat against people who want to have really cool, engaging PvP combat. And that means putting systems in place that, A, you can find where that is and bringing people to areas that they know it's going to happen. So there is definitely lots of plans.
It's like literally the supporters video that I put out last week. By the way, it's plug time. For anybody who became a supporter, member here on Twitch, whatever it might be, I'm just going to do it this way. It's faster like this. Oops.
Pirates as well.
Just put out a new supporter video. If you are a member, it should show up on the page just like this. You can click into it here. But this one is about how CIG hopes to do exactly what Richard Tyre is talking about right now to help balance out the game, make it a little more predictable, tell players where they're going to be, and see if this solves things like unwanted PvP, or as some people might call things both correctly and incorrectly, griefing. It's going to be a big thing with Star Citizen for sure. So I wanted to cover that. I usually try and do these sorts of more in-depth, high-quality videos for people who are supporting us and making this possible. So you've got a few here, but the latest one just came out last week, and that's all about that. So check it out if you haven't already. If you need to go on... Oh, did I miss that? No. If you need to go through Twitch, that'll be on the Discord server. So just check out supporter alerts in Discord. A ton of people just got memberships on YouTube, so I know you guys can go check it out.
Well, so that you can have really cool, engaging PvP combat against people who want to have really cool, engaging PvP combat. And that means putting systems in place that, A, you can find where that is, and bringing people to areas that they know it's going to happen. So there is definitely lots of plans for both bad guys and PvP, and lawful guys and lawful PvP. So I think the first aspect is that we need more than one system that is just fully policed by the advocacy or the UEE. We need to have systems where it's more appropriate.
And of course, we use the term bad guys colloquially. Shout out to the bad girls out there.
Yes. Guys, girls, and robots.
All right. 2 more questions.
this next
here.
one's-
The other big one for you. What place?
Hold on. This was the last one almost that we listened to. Honestly, I think that's most of the interesting stuff they talked about. What should player expect in terms of gameplay with the reputation hostility card? Yeah, we got it. That master modes we got. 323 we got. All around a good talk, guys. It's a good amount of information. Definitely more stuff to discuss. Some of it might be slipping my mind right now. I'm sure we'll loop around back to it again when something else is happening. Any questions? Anybody wanted to? Oh, it's the DJ Bunton. Yo, good to see ya. Welcome in. Thank you for your service. Missed the AC part. You mean the absolute best part of the talk? We talked about Arena Commander, and I talked about my love and joy for it, and the idea that we might get freaking FPS PvE in Arena Commander. Holy crap, I'm gonna play it so much. So much. Medical gameplay training. I can learn how to actually hit people in this game instead of shooting at the ground near them. I'm feeling it. How you doing, dude? What is AC? What runs AC? What? The computer? I think you're saying what even runs AC? Hopefully your computer. Space Dads rejoice, man. I'm just looking for some arena combat. You know? Growing up with Halo. Yeah. MMOs are fun. But let me get a couple rounds in. Every game loop should have an AC mode. Yes. Every single type of gameplay should be available in AC so that you can use that as your private server area where you can play that gameplay and figure it out and learn it without the danger of the PU. I certainly hope that's where it's going. Then people could stop asking about private servers. The Sheriff, good evening. You're looking forward to seeing what else they've got ready to go, but haven't really announced as ready to go, like night vision. Oh, there's plenty of that. Couple of rounds versus players, the best way to hone skills. Yeah, but I like playing versus bots every once in a while. Yeah, we need more non-lethal weapons, definitely. Alrighty, folks. That's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope it was entertaining. You got to learn something nice from it. Maybe even got to hear a take that you didn't know of or didn't have before. Hop back into SC after the entire Tarkov drama. It's so nice to have a game where the devs operate in good faith. They definitely do a lot of talking, don't they? They'll talk to us. May the juice of the great tomato in the sky bless your existence. May the sun look down on all your souls and give you happy days. Another one of your streams, you mentioned your settings based on input from 10#42. What was that guidance, please? Go check out 10#42's YouTube channel. That'll help you out a lot. He's got the, he's definitely got the what to do to get the best out of Star Citizen. That's the best way to go. All right, y'all. It's been good. Much love to you. Hope you enjoyed today. Go eat some food. Be happy. Value that life you have. It's good times. I'll see y'all on Wednesday.